Good morning. Welcome to Monday Morning with Tanny. I am Tanny Reed Walker. I am a counselor with FCSS in the Barons Rica Warner area. I am happy to be with you here today to talk about my introduction to supporting survivors, suicide survivors. So this is for people who are living with the loss of someone that they love who died by suicide. I ask for grace and compassion as I go through this process with you. If I say something or insinuate something and it doesn't land right for you, please call me on it. Please let me know. This is a very, very complicated and it's a very painful subject. And hi, Charisma, thanks for letting me know you're here. And I really understand that the words that I use won't always land the same for everyone. My intention is to be as compassionate and understanding in all of my videos and all of my interactions. I'm also aware it may not always come across that way, and I ask for your grace and compassion and understanding in that. And again, I also welcome any comments. You can email me. You can go on www.fcss.ca and contact my supervisor. You can contact me and just let us know what's happening for you. The work, as anybody that's been following, that I tend to resonate most closely with is Dr. Alan Wolfeld's. He is a companion for the grievers, and he has created so many beautiful resources and that you can use. So I'm actually going to follow his work again, just like I have been. I have this book here, which is a lovely hard copy book, The Wilderness of Suicide Grief, Finding Your Way, Dr. Alan Wolfeld. You can order his books on Amazon. You can also order them through his website, and it is www.centerforloss.com. So that's center, spelled the American way, forloss.com. And you can get all of his books. I love these little hard copy books that he has. They're just very solid and substantial, but they're quick and they have lovely little chapters. I also have this one, Understanding Your Suicide Grief, 10 Essential Touchstones for Finding Hope and Healing Your Heart. And you can also get a companion journal, which I just received, and I'm looking forward to going through and sharing. All of these resources I highly recommend. He's a very good writer. He's very compassionate, and it's very supportive. So he has 10 touchstones for grief, which I will be going through over the next several weeks. But I want to start off with letting you, or just talking about how, like all other grief, this grief is not linear, and it is complicated. There can be far more guilt with this grief, far more questions of why, and trying to understand how this could happen to you, how your loved one could possibly die. And I like to dispel the myth that it's 100% a cognitive choice. What happens when someone chooses to die is they're in a lot of pain. And I've heard recently it's their perception just gets so small and so narrow, and they just can't see their way out of it. It's like tiny. So all the options and the people and the opportunities that are around them just have shrunk so small that they can't see any other way out, any other way out of this pain. There are three things that people really feel when they decide to kill themselves. And that is hopeless, helpless, and worthless. And so hopeless is they don't see a way out. There's no change that they could see could ever happen. Just every fiber of their being believes there is nothing that can prevent the pain that they're feeling except death. That's hopeless. Worthless is feeling like they have no value. In fact, they have negative value. Everyone would be better off without them. And they may even rationalize, yeah, they may be sad, but really, their world will be so much better with me gone. They just have no worth. They don't have any, if you can't see the future and you don't even know what the point is, and you don't feel like you have any value, you have no hopes, you have no dreams, you have nothing to provide for anyone or give to anyone, no gifts, you can't see them because your perception has narrowed so much. You just can't. And so the last one is, so it was hopeless, worthless, and oh man, I already have blanked out on the next one. Hopeless, helpless, that's what it is. And helpless means you don't have any power. I've talked to people where everything you suggest or that anybody suggests is they have all of the answers as to why those things will not work or how they have tried them. Or there is no point even talking about those things anymore because they just can't. There's no hope, there's no help, there's nothing. And those things combined are very, very powerful. Very powerful. And then if you can add, there's other things that come into play for people that, so there's people that attempt suicide, and then there's people also that complete suicide, which is an awful term, but it's true. So there's a difference in the brain structure and people's experience a lot of the time between those things. But we're talking here about people that have died from suicide. And I would like to talk about the words that we use. And there's been a movement of changing from committed suicide to died by suicide or died from suicide. And I can't remember if there's any more, but I will keep looking and suggest them as we go on. But I tend to use died from suicide or died by suicide. And that takes away the word commit, because the word commit sounds like a crime. And as painful as it is for us that have been left behind when someone dies by suicide, thinking of it as a crime makes it so much more complicated. And there is already so much stigma around the death of someone when they've done it themselves. And the families that have to live with that, and the friends that have to live with that. And everyone is asking, why? What could I have done better? They lay awake at night thinking, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? And then the pain of that person being gone, and then wondering why did they choose that, is all very, very complicated. So I would like to walk you through some of the things to help with your suicide grief. I'm hoping that you take the time to be compassionate and you can lean into your feelings. And I hope that the support that we're going to be doing over the next probably 4 or 5 weeks will be helpful for you. I ask that you share and and support the people around you, because it's very isolating. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everyone's afraid they're going to hurt somebody's feelings. But I can tell you, feelings are already hurt. Having lost that person, when it's not a stigmatized loss, people are a little bit more comfortable with talking about the person that died. They're a little bit more comfortable with sharing. They're a little bit more comfortable with your grief. But when it's complicated like this, people are far less comfortable. And it's very isolating. And that's not helpful. So I'm hoping to be able to create a space and a time and some more language and support for people who are going through, and I love Dr. Wolfeld's words of the wilderness of suicide grief. Grief is a wilderness, and I think that suicide grief is even more complicated. It is even more tricky, with more pitfalls and more things around the corner lurking. And we really need people to walk with us through that. All the hard times are so much better when you have somebody to walk through it with you. Suicide is way more prevalent in our world than we often like to think. Some families are closed and a suicide may happen, and some people in the family may not want to talk about that suicide. They may never acknowledge it as being a suicide, and that's okay. Find people that will talk about it with you. We can't force people to have an experience that they don't want to have, that they're not ready to have, they don't have the capacity to have. A person that is in a family where there has been, or has a friend where there has been suicide, that has a strong, loving support system and has really good mental health and has so many things on the healthy whole side of their life, is going to cope with and learn how to mourn and integrate that grief into their life differently than someone who has met pre-existing mental health problems, has addiction or chemical or substance abuse um, dependencies. Um, just it's just as diverse as any other grief. It's more complicated. And there's also the fear that if you talk about it, other people in the family may die. But I like to think and talk about hiding it and not talking about it is like having a trap door suddenly open. So nobody has died by suicide in this person's world, and there's a trap door that's closed and they don't know that it's there. It's under a rug. And then all of a sudden, somebody dies by suicide, the rug's taken off, and the trap door is left open. Everybody knows it's there. It's so much easier to fall in. If we talk about it, maybe we can at least close the trap door. We may never put the rug over it again. We always know it's there, but we have support system and protective system to help keep other people from dying the same way. Prism has said, I don't know if you plan to talk about it, but how does religion play into grieving a suicide? Yes, we will definitely be talking about religion closed family systems, lots of those kind of things that are going to keep people from talking about it. I think religion is a really, really big one. And I'm not saying there's anything, I'm saying that religion is very supportive for people, but how do you work around your religion with your suicide that's happened in your world? And I suspect that finding somebody safe to talk to, whether it's a counselor or a safe online group where it's comfortable to be able to talk about your feelings. When it comes to feelings, you don't have to agree that something was right that happened, but you do need to acknowledge the feelings around it. And this is not being said to shame anyone who has died by suicide. This is said to support people who have had someone that has died by suicide. And like I said, it's so complicated. And how you are going to survive is by learning how to mourn, figuring out how to express and move those grief emotions that come out, how to live your life. This is really about supporting you in living in a time where it's very difficult to think about living on. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. This is a short one today. I personally, I just feel honored to be able to work with people who have had someone that they love die at any time. I feel extra honored when it is complicated and there are more things happening for them to be able to support people. And I want to make sure that I do a really, really good job. So next week we will start with Touchstone 1. And maybe just let you know, I'll let you know what the touchstones are. So Touchstone 1 is opening to the presence of your loss. So that's just opening up to knowing that it's happened and being aware. Touchstone 2 is dispelling the misconceptions about suicide and grief and mourning. I feel like this one's going to be very powerful. Touchstone 3 is embracing the uniqueness of your suicide grief. All grief is unique. And this one has an extra bunch of uniqueness. Touchstone 4 is exploring your feelings of loss. Even just saying that, my whole body just like, I could feel it kind of relaxing, knowing that we can take some time to honor those feelings and be with them. Touchstone 5, recognizing that you are not crazy. Grief is crazy making. Your whole world is just ripped out from under you. And suicide grief is unexpected and it's extra painful and it can really make a person feel crazy. Touchstone 6 is understanding the 6 needs of mourning. That will definitely take a whole session. Touchstone 7 is nurturing yourself. I always talk about taking care of yourself. And it's hard. It is so hard to place yourself first. It can be so hard to eat when you've known that your loved one's not going to eat again. It can feel like a betrayal for some people. But they didn't want you to not take care of yourself. It's very important to nurture yourself. Touchstone 8 is reach out for help. I always talk about reaching out for help. Find people who will help. It's realizing that you are a human being, and having somebody safe and secure and confidential talk with you about the things you're going through can be very powerful. Very powerful. This is not something you can just wish away. Touchstone 9, seek reconciliation, not resolution. I've spoken in the past, reconciliation, the difference between reconciliation and resolution, and we will talk about it again, involved with the suicide grief. And Touchstone 10, appreciate your transformation. You will transform. You will transform. Not today. A little bit every day. So that's what we'll be talking about. And we'll start with Touchstone 1 next week. Until then, if you have any specific questions, any specific topics, any ideas, any thoughts, any resources, anything that you want shared, or you just want to discuss it with me, anything, please contact me. It's www.fcss.ca. I don't chat on Facebook, but I do have my work Facebook account, and you can send a message through there for me to contact you. And I'll do my best to be able to connect with you. So until next week, find one thing you can do to nourish yourself and take care of yourself. And take big, deep breaths of air and slowly let them out. Your breath connects you. I'll see you next Monday. Thank you.